Hi guys, Joe here. Welcome to the shop. Yeah, I'm watching a lot of Randy Richards videos lately, and you know, that guy has some pretty neat tooling for his Logan lathe, the turret and everything. But he did a video just recently, I saw it today, about a bearing on his collet closer. And you know, it got me thinking, you know, I don't do a lot of multiple parts here, so you know, it's kind of like you know, I don't really need it. But this lathe did come with a collet closer, and it's right here. And I really don't know too much about it, but I'm pretty sure it's missing a piece, and that piece engages this little plate right here to provide drive to it, and it lives on the spindle of the lathe. Now unfortunately, when my lathe came with this, it was like thrown in the back there, and I really, you know, I didn't even care about it when I bought the thing. I was more concerned with, like, you know, is the thing clapped out, and you know, I need a check for it, that kind of thing. But you know, I figured, what the hell, you know, this thing is, it's a pretty nice closer, and I might as well make use of it, just, you know, put it back into service. So we're gonna have to make the little piece that goes on the spindle. And actually, a little while ago, I contacted Tom Lipton at Ox Tools, and he had, you know, I had asked him about, you know, what his was similar to mine. I asked him, you know, and what he ended up doing was sending me a bunch of pictures of it, of the piece we got to make. So it's pretty involved, but you know, what the heck, man, it makes good video. Okay, so there are a few extra pieces to this collet closer set up on my lathe, and one of them is this adapter here. It's got a 5C taper on the inside diameter, and it's got a Morse taper 5 on the outside. And after you remove the chuck off this lathe, this fits in there. Okay, there's the actual drawbar tube itself, and that threads on to the collet closer. It's pretty nice stuff, so it's worth keeping. It's not some junk. I don't know who made it, but it's pretty nice. Could be a Royal, maybe. I don't know if they marked their stuff. But anyways, so this is what it looks like, and then you put this down the spindle hole. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I got to get some measurements for this thing off the end of the spindle here. So I just have a 1/2 inch 5C collet and a piece of stock. Yeah, that would work. And then I'm going to just load it up and see if I can, you know, get a good measurement from the end of the spindle here to the face of this collet closer. So I was watching Randy's video today on his closer, and he taught me something, that you don't want to bottom these threads out on the collet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw it in until I bottom them out, and then I'm going to back it off a couple turns. And then I should be able to get a pretty good measurement of what I need to get this thing going here. Okay, that bottomed. So now I'm going to back it off like 1, 2, 3 seems like a good number. Okay, so theoretically, this thing is going to be able to tell, because there's some dogs on here that have to engage. So when this thing is, see, that would be open, so this would be closed. Okay. So I'm measuring exactly 3 inches from the end of the spindle to the face of this little dog plate here. Alright. I think that's all we need to know about when it's on the lathe. So, I guess we'll start trying to sketch this thing up. So make some measurements off of this collar closer face here, and then come up with some kind of a plate that we can machine out of steel. Alright, we'll get this bad boy ready to go. So I got my steady set up here. This thing is so big that I had to like stick a little shim in here to get this thing to actually fit. It's at the max of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a center. First I'm going to face this off, then I'm going to cut a center in there, and then we're going to open this thing up and use the center for most of the machining. And then I'm thinking, you know, we'll throw it in the saw and cut it off and then face the other side after it's all done. I really don't have to take too much off. I'm going to take a light skim cut for 3 whole inches, and then I'm probably going to just cut this down, just, you know, so it can fit through this hole right there, because it will be sticking out here. So yeah, now this hole, it isn't exactly centered, so I'll just find, you know, the smallest place and then just make a diameter that big. And I guess actually at some point there was this thing was installed on here, because there's holes for the pivot thing, so we'll have to make a pivot block too, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. So, yep, onward we go. So we're just facing off here. I got the carriage locked, feeding with the compound. Just taking light facing cuts here. And we got it running in the steady rest. Running at 293 RPM. Alright, let's do some cutting. Put it up to about 500. Let's see what we get here. Alright, that's 3.15, so That's some, I'll leave a little for trimming up later. So that was the mill scale that just came off of there. Let's try that, see how that does. Didn't like that at all. This thing is just not cooperating today. Well, the insert doesn't look too chowdered, but try turning it, see what happens. Well, it just goes to show you what a dull insert will do. Check this out. So, yeah, the insert, I mean, it didn't look bad, but I guess it was, because I just turned it a little to another face there, and yeah. It's alright, we'll just get this down to a reasonable diameter here, and then start boring it. Well, we took a little ride down to the pizza place for some dinner, and I got to thinking about this thing. And the 3 inches was from the end of the spindle, so we're gonna have to add some. So we'll just be cutting a little more off of this. We gotta run the steady up a little more, but lucky we found out about it before we made this thing. Alright, we're just chopping away at this thing. We'll show you a little more cutting here. Well, I'll tell you, man, I haven't seen this lathe take off that kind of metal. And this is 4140 pre-hardened. And I'm taking 20 thousandths cuts here with a pretty aggressive feed rate. And we're running at 920 something RPM. Yeah. Can't beat these ISCAR inserts. I think I had that, this is the first time I've had to turn this thing in this holder here, and this is my primary holder for turning down stuff on the OD. So that thing's been in there for months, cut a lot of metal, but it clearly was on its way out there when we first started, and I had to rotate it to the next cutting edge, and now it's even a great finish and taking off metal like I can't believe. Getting little blue chips, about I don't know, 4 inches long, 5 inches long. Good. So yeah, that's the story. We'll just carry on here, and we'll get back to you when we get this down close to the right diameter here. Okay, so the bottom line is I measured this whole thing over here, and I measured the spindle diameter, and it turns out that this piece, this part right here, wants to be 2 inches in diameter. And you know, this flange, basically I just cut it back a little bit, but this is all close to the original OD minus the mill scale and stuff. So we'll keep this here like this. And you know, like I said, I extended this a little bit. I think this is like 4.5 now. No, it's 4 exactly. And then you know, this flange, I'm not sure how large to make this. I guess we'll figure that out as we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this OD down to 2 inches, and then I'm going to bore it all the way through here with first a big drill and then a boring bar until it's, you know, as big as the threaded part of the spindle, which is the biggest part. And then it will be pushing up against, let me show you here. It'll have a positive stop up against this collar right here. And I'll just put a couple of grub screws, maybe 3 of them, so that they, you know, can bite on this part here. And then, you know, hopefully this thing will fly after that. We'll have to make a little pivot mount. But, you know, thanks, Randy. You're giving me incentive to resurrect this piece of crap that's been sitting under my lathe for like 20 years.